right, get ready for a deep dive into something, well, I guess everyone does, but maybe doesn't think about too much.
Hmm.
We're talking all about sleep.
Ooh.
We're going to unlock the science behind why we conk out every night.
Yeah.
And
I
believe
bet.
me, it's a lot cooler than just counting sheep.
You might be surprised by how much your brain controls your sleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even when you think you're the one in charge.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, to guide us through all this sleep science, today we're diving into a chapter from Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker.
Okay.
This chapter is all about caffeine, jet lag, and that intriguing hormone melatonin.
All right.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll understand why that afternoon coffee might be backstabbing you, and why jet lag feels like some messed up time travel experiment gone wrong.
Let's start with the basics.
Okay.
There are two major forces at play when it comes to controlling when we sleep and how deeply we sleep.
Okay, so break this down for me. Is it as simple as just being tired enough to fall asleep?
It's definitely more complex than that.
Oh, okay.
So we all have this internal clock, it's called the circadian rhythm,
Okay.
which acts like, imagine, a conductor for your whole body.
Okay.
It influences when we release hormones, body temperature, even things like athletic performance.
Wow.
It's on this 24-hour cycle that keeps everything running on schedule.
Hmm.
Then we have something called sleep pressure. It's kind of like that sleepiness meter you were talking about.
Okay, so is that why, like, even if I'm trying to stay up late, sometimes I just crash?
Exactly.
Like, my body's like, nope, you're going to bed.
Yeah. Your body overrides your willpower.
Hmm.
As we go about our day, this chemical called adenosine pumps up in our brain,
Okay.
and the longer we're awake, the more adenosine comes up, and that creates that pressure to sleep.
Okay.
It's like a tiny voice in your head getting louder and louder. Go to bed.
So that mid-afternoon slump, that's not just me being lazy, it's adenosine staging a coup.
Pretty much. It's trying to turn down the wakefulness signals in your brain and crank up the sleep signals.
So we've got the internal clock and we've got this sleepiness meter. But why are some people morning people and some people are night owls? Is
Yeah.
that just a preference thing or is there something else going on?
So that's where chronotypes come in. These are basically your genetically determined preferences for sleep and wake times. You've got your morning larks, who naturally wake up early,
Right.
and your night owls, who prefer to stay up late.
So you mean those annoyingly perky morning people are just genetically wired that way?
They might be.
Well, fair.
Well, it does seem like morning larks have an easier time in our society.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's structured around this 9 to 5 schedule.
Right.
But there's actually an evolutionary reason for having all these different chronotypes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why would, like, evolution favor someone who wants to stay up all night?
So imagine like a tribe of early humans, right?
Okay.
Having folks with different sleep-wake preferences meant that someone was always awake and alert,
Hmm.
which would have been super crucial for survival.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You know, someone to watch out for predators while others slept.
Wow, so having some night owls around might have actually saved the tribe from, like, a saber-toothed cat attack.
Exactly.
Mother Nature really thinks of everything.
She does.
Okay, so we've got the circadian rhythm, we've got sleep pressure. Now let's talk about the hormone melatonin. Is it as spooky as it sounds?
Melatonin might have this mysterious nickname,
Right.
but it's actually crucial for regulating our sleep.
Okay.
So as darkness falls, the pineal gland in your brain starts releasing melatonin.
Mm-hmm.
It signals to your body that it's time to prepare for sleep.
So it's like the official bedtime announcement?
Pretty much, yeah.
But I thought melatonin actually made us sleepy.
Ah, that's a common misconception.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't directly make us fall asleep. Think of it like the starting pistol at a race.
Okay.
Signals the beginning, but doesn't force you to run.
So it's like a warm-up act for the main sleep event. What about those melatonin supplements?
Right.
People take them for jet lag. Did those actually work?
Yeah, they can be helpful for some people.
Okay.
Especially when adjusting to new time zones.
Right.
By taking it at the right time in your new location, you can kind of trick your brain into thinking it's nighttime, making it easier to fall asleep.
So it's like manually adjusting your internal clock to match the new time zone?
Exactly.
Pretty clever. But I've also heard that traveling east is way harder on your body than traveling west. Is that true?
It is.
Yeah.
There are a couple of reasons for that.
Okay.
Traveling east, you're going to bed earlier than usual, which can be tough,
Right. Yeah.
especially when your body isn't ready.
Right.
But also, our natural circadian rhythm is actually a bit longer than 24 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, closer to like 24 hours and 15 minutes.
Mm.
So adjusting to a slightly longer day, which happens when we travel west,
Mm-hmm.
is way easier than squeezing our rhythm into a shorter day.
Oh, okay, so like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly.
Yeah. Helpful.
And constantly messing with our internal clock, like with frequent time zone travel, can have some serious consequences, both physically and mentally.
Wow.
Yeah, there's research showing that airline crews who fly those long-haul routes frequently can experience memory problems, brain shrinkage, and even an increased risk of health issues.
Okay, that's a scary thought. I guess that makes you realize how important it is to prioritize sleep, especially after a long flight. Give your body time to adjust.
Absolutely. Even if you're not a frequent flyer, understanding how those time zones affect your body can help you make better choices about when you travel and your sleep schedule.
Okay, well, before we get too jet lagged, let's move on to everyone's favorite pick me up
Ooh, yeah.
caffeine.
Caffeine.
I love it. So, caffeine's definitely a popular choice, but it's important to understand how it's messing with all those sleep mechanisms we just talked about. Like adenosine, the sleepiness chemical,
Oh, yeah.
builds up throughout the
The
day.
little voice saying, go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. So caffeine actually blocks those adenosine receptors in your brain.
Uh-huh.
It's like putting a do not disturb sign on those receptors so that sleepiness signals can't get through.
Exactly.
So caffeine is like a bouncer at the brain's nightclub, refusing entry to adenosine, the tired partygoer.
That's a good one.
But what happens when the bouncer goes home? All those sleepy party crashers, they come flooding in.
Yeah, you get that dreaded caffeine crash. A wave of accumulated sleepiness hits even harder because we've been ignoring it for so long.
It's like delaying the inevitable sleepiness wave, and then it just hits you like a tsunami later on. I never realized that even like an afternoon cup of coffee could interfere with sleep later that night.
Well, that's because caffeine has a long half-life.
Oh, okay.
It takes hours for our bodies to eliminate even half of what we consume.
Wow.
And to illustrate just how powerful this stuff is,
Okay.
there was this fascinating and kind of creepy study from NASA.
NASA.
Yeah, where they exposed spiders to different drugs,
Okay.
including caffeine.
Okay, spiders on caffeine.
Spiders on caffeine.
I'm intrigued, but also slightly terrified. What happened?
So the results were pretty dramatic. The caffeinated spiders, they build webs that were totally erratic and disorganized.
Whoa.
Yeah, completely dysfunctional. Like they were having a caffeine-fueled meltdown.
So talk about a bad trip. Okay, so we've got these two forces governing our sleep. We have the circadian rhythm, the internal clock, and sleep pressure, that adenosine buildup. But are they working together?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the answer might surprise you.
Okay.
These two systems actually operate independently of each other.
Wait, really? I always assumed they were somehow connected.
Yeah, they usually align. That's why we have those predictable patterns of alertness and sleepiness
Right.
throughout the day and night, but they don't directly communicate or influence each other.
So it's like you have two separate departments working on the same project, but they're not actually talking to each other.
Yes, it could get messy.
It really could. Well, tell me about it. I'm a total night owl, and those early morning meetings are brutal. But before I doze off here, I'm curious to hear how these two forces, the internal clock and sleep pressure, play out over a typical day and night.
Okay, so let's imagine you wake up around 7 a.m.
Okay.
At this point, your sleep pressure is pretty low because you've had, hopefully, a good night's rest.
Okay.
Your brain's cleared out all that adenosine. Meanwhile, your circadian rhythm is sending those wake-up signals,
Okay.
making you feel alert.
That explains why I need at least 2 cups of coffee before I can function. Just kidding. Well, maybe.
Now, as you go about your day, those adenosine levels, they start climbing again.
Right.
Creates that sleep pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But your circadian rhythm is still going strong,
Okay.
providing that counterbalancing force, keeping you relatively alert throughout the morning and early afternoon.
So it's like a tug of war between sleepiness and alertness.
Exactly.
Okay.
But by mid-afternoon, those adenosine levels are pretty high, and even your circadian rhythm starts to lose some steam.
Right.
That's when that sleep pressure becomes more noticeable,
Mm-hmm.
and we often feel that afternoon slump.
Ah, that explains my urge to grab another cup of coffee.
Right, that caffeine's going to give you a temporary boost.
Mm.
But remember, it's just masking those sleepiness signals.
Right.
They'll be back.
So it's a temporary fix, not a long-term solution. Okay, so as evening approaches, what happens?
Well, as darkness falls, your circadian rhythm starts to wind down,
Okay.
sending signals that it's time to prepare for sleep. At the same time, those adenosine levels are peaking
Yeah.
after a long day of being awake.
It was like a double whammy of sleepies. No wonder I can barely keep my eyes open by 9 p.m.
If you've had enough sleep the night before and followed a relatively consistent sleep schedule, you should be ready for bed around that time.
Okay.
But if you've been skimping on sleep or your schedule's all over the place,
Yeah.
that's when things can get tricky.
Okay, so it's all about finding that sweet spot where our circadian rhythm and sleep pressure are working together to create that perfect sleep window.
Exactly.
But what happens when we throw a wrench in the system and pull an all-nighter? How do our bodies cope with that level of sleep deprivation?
That's a scenario many of us can relate to,
Oh, yeah.
whether it's for studying for exams or working late. And as you might expect, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
When we deprive ourselves of sleep, our sleep pressure just keeps building and building.
So the adenosine is having a party in our brain, and there's no one to clean up the mess.
Exactly. But here's the interesting part.
Okay.
Even though the pressure to sleep is skyrocketing, we don't just become progressively sleepier throughout the night.
Really?
Yeah, our circadian rhythm is still doing its thing.
Okay.
So even during an all-nighter, when we're running on fumes, our circadian rhythm will give us a temporary boost of alertness in the morning.
So it's like our internal clock is trying to throw us a lifeline.
Exactly, but that lifeline doesn't last forever.
Of course.
As the day goes on, our circadian rhythm starts to decline again, and that sleep pressure becomes overwhelming.
So those all-nighters, they might help us get through a tough night, but they definitely come with a price.
They do. Pulling all-nighters should be the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
Chronic sleep deprivation can have serious consequences for both our physical and mental health.
Well, I think that's a good place to pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our sleep deep dive.
We have, but this is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore this fascinating world of sleep.
I can't wait. Welcome back to our sleep extravaganza. Last time we dove into the two big forces behind sleep, the circadian rhythm, our internal timekeeper, and sleep pressure, which is all about that sleepiness chemical adenosine.
We also talked about how these two systems don't always play nicely together,
Right.
especially when we try to outsmart our bodies with
Yeah.
things like all-nighters or crazy time zone travel.
Yeah, my internal clock is still a bit fuzzy from that last trip to Europe.
Oh, yeah.
But before we get sidetracked by jet lag,
Okay.
I have a burning question.
Okay,
We talked about the caffeine crash
right.
and how it's basically delayed sleepiness just waiting to happen.
Uh-huh.
But what about people who seem immune to caffeine?
Mhm.
Like those who can have a coffee right before bed and sleep like a baby?
Right.
What's their secret?
It's a combination of factors, really.
Okay.
Some people are just genetically gifted.
Okay.
Their liver breaks down caffeine much faster than others. Like they have this super efficient caffeine detox team working overtime.
So it's like having a built-in espresso machine cleaner.
Exactly. And then there's age.
Okay.
As we get older, our metabolism slows down,
Right.
including how fast we process caffeine.
Okay.
So older adults are often more sensitive to caffeine's effects.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like our caffeine tolerance is a superpower that fades with time.
Right.
Speaking of fading superpowers, let's talk about what happens when we don't get enough sleep.
Okay.
We know it's not good, but give us the nitty-gritty.
Really?
What's the real deal with sleep deprivation?
Okay, so think of your brain like a giant filing cabinet.
Okay.
During sleep, it's sorting through all the day's experiences,
Mm-hmm.
consolidating memories, clearing out toxins,
Okay.
basically hitting the reset button for the next day.
So it's like a nightly decluttering session for the mind.
Yes.
But what happens when we skip that crucial step?
When we don't get enough sleep, it's like leaving all those files scattered on the desk. Becomes a chaotic mess.
Yeah.
Makes it harder to function.
Right.
We experience difficulty concentrating,
Mm-hmm.
making decisions, remembering things,
Yeah.
even controlling our emotions.
So that explains those foggy-brained mornings and why I'm more likely to snap at someone when I haven't slept enough.
Exactly. And it's not just our brains that suffer.
Right.
Sleep deprivation also weakens our immune system, makes us more vulnerable to infections and illnesses.
Okay.
It even increases our risk of developing some serious health problems,
Like what?
like heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, even certain types of cancer.
Wait, hold on. Lack of sleep can increase our risk of cancer. That's pretty scary.
The research is pretty convincing.
Wow.
Chronic sleep deprivation throws off our hormonal balance,
Mm-hmm.
increases inflammation throughout the body,
Hmm.
and messes with our DNA repair mechanisms.
Oh, wow.
All things that can contribute to the development of cancer cells.
Okay, definitely not the bedtime story I was hoping for.
Right.
So how much sleep do we actually need to, avoid these scary consequences? Is there a magic number?
There's no one-size-fits-all answer, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sleep needs vary based on age, genetics, lifestyle, and other individual factors.
Okay.
But most adults need somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night to function at their best.
So those all-nighter study sessions are definitely not a long-term solution.
Definitely not.
But it's not just about quantity, right?
No.
The quality of our sleep matters too.
Absolutely. Creating an environment that promotes restful, uninterrupted sleep is crucial.
Okay.
And that's where understanding our circadian rhythms can really come in handy.
Right. We need to work with our internal clocks, not against them.
Exactly. For example, getting some sunlight first thing in the morning can help reset that internal clock and promote wakefulness.
Okay.
So open those curtains and let the sun shine in.
Okay, so sunshine is good. What about at night?
In the evening, dim the lights and put away those electronic devices
Okay.
a couple of hours before bed.
Hmm.
This signals to your body it's time to wind down
Okay.
and start producing melatonin.
So those late night Netflix binges are a no-no.
They might be sabotaging your sleep. And consistency is key here.
Okay.
Try to stick to a regular sleep schedule,
Okay.
going to bed and waking up around the same time each day, even on weekends.
Hmm.
This will help regulate your circadian rhythm,
Okay.
create a more predictable sleep-wake pattern.
Okay. Consistency, sunlight, darkness. Got it.
Yeah,
But what about that other sleep disruptor we mentioned earlier, jet lag?
right.
Any tips for minimizing the misery of those time zone tangos?
Jet lag is tough,
It is.
but there are some strategies we can use to make it a little less brutal.
Okay.
One is to gradually shift your sleep schedule in the days leading up to your trip.
Okay.
If you're traveling east,
Hmm.
try going to bed and waking up 15 to 30 minutes earlier each day.
Okay.
For westward travel, do the opposite.
So it's like giving our internal clock a little nudge in the right direction?
Exactly. It helps to ease the transition and minimize those jarring effects of jet lag.
Okay.
Then, when you arrive at your destination, get some sunlight during the daytime,
Okay.
especially in the morning.
So even if I'm exhausted, resist the urge to just collapse in a dark hotel room.
Get outside, soak up those rays, let your body know it's daytime in the new time zone,
Okay.
and avoid bright light in the evening,
Hey,
especially from those pesky electronic devices.
yeah.
To help boost your melatonin production.
It's like we're hacking our internal clocks with light.
Exactly.
Pretty clever. And what about melatonin supplements? Can those help with jet lag?
They can be a useful tool,
Okay.
but the trick is to take them at the right time
Okay.
in the new time zone.
Right.
So, for example, if you're traveling eastward
Mm-hmm.
and you need to go to bed earlier,
Yeah.
take a small dose of melatonin a few hours before your desired bedtime in that new location.
If it's like giving our bodies a gentle push towards sleep at the right time.
Exactly. But remember, melatonin isn't a sleeping pill.
Right.
It just helps to regulate the timing of your sleep-wake cycle.
Okay.
And as we discussed earlier, the quality of those supplements can vary.
Yeah.
So it's always best to talk to your doctor
Right.
before using them.
Right. Safety first.
Absolutely.
Now, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about something that's a little more controversial in the sleep world. Napping.
Ooh, napping.
Is it a friend or foe to good sleep hygiene?
Naps can be both beneficial and detrimental.
Okay.
It really depends on how you approach them.
Okay.
They can provide a much-needed energy boost
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the day,
Yeah.
but they can also backfire
Uh-oh.
and mess with your nighttime sleep if you're not careful.
So it's like a double-edged sword. Give me the rules of napping so I don't accidentally cut myself.
Okay. So the key is to keep those naps short and strategic.
Okay.
Aim for no more than 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
Avoid napping too late in the afternoon.
Got it.
Napping too close to bedtime can make it harder to fall asleep later.
Got it. Short power naps are in. Marathon snooze fests are out.
Exactly. And remember, napping isn't a substitute for a good night's sleep.
Right.
If you're constantly relying on naps to function,
Yeah.
it's probably a sign that you're not meeting your overall sleep needs.
Okay, napping is a tool, not a crutch.
Exactly.
But I'm wondering about people who live in parts of the world that have limited daylight hours.
Right.
Especially during those long winter months, like it gets dark so early. Are they
Yeah.
fighting a losing battle against their internal clocks?
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Especially for those living in those northern latitudes,
Right,
where the winter days are really short.
right.
This can lead to seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, which is characterized by fatigue, low energy, depressed mood, and even cravings for carbs.
So it's like our bodies are protesting the lack of sunshine.
You could say that. Fortunately, there are ways to combat those winter blues
Okay, good.
and keep those circadian rhythms on track.
Okay,
One effective strategy is light therapy,
okay,
which involves using a bright light box
okay.
for a specific amount of time each day.
So it's like giving our bodies a dose of artificial sunshine.
Exactly. That light box mimics natural sunlight.
Okay.
It helps to suppress melatonin production and promote wakefulness.
I might need to invest in one of those. Now let's talk about the sleep environment.
Okay.
What makes for a truly sleep-conducive sanctuary?
Creating that sleep-friendly environment is essential for promoting restful sleep.
Okay.
We've touched on some of the key elements, but it's worth emphasizing the importance of darkness.
Okay.
Our bodies are programmed to associate darkness with sleep,
Right.
so make sure your bedroom is as dark as possible.
Got it. Blackout curtains, eye mask, the whole 9 yards. What else?
Temperature is crucial.
Okay.
Most people sleep best in a cool environment, around 65 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
When our core body temperature drops, it signals to our brains it's time to sleep.
Ah, so that's why those sweltering summer nights can be so miserable.
Exactly.
A cool breeze is like a lullaby for our bodies.
It is. And then there's noise.
Okay.
If you live in a noisy environment,
Yeah.
earplugs or a white noise machine can be lifesavers.
Right.
They help to block out those distracting sounds
Mm-hmm.
and create a more peaceful sleep space.
So it's about creating a sensory experience that promotes relaxation and sleepiness. Darkness, coolness, quiet. It's like building a sleep cocoon.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the importance of comfort.
Okay.
A supportive mattress and pillows that align with your sleeping position are crucial.
I guess the saying about getting a good night's sleep on a bed of nails doesn't really apply here.
Not quite. By creating a comfortable sleep environment, we're sending a clear message.
What's that?
Sleep is a priority.
Okay, so we've covered the environment, but what about our habits?
Right.
What are some practical strategies for establishing good sleep hygiene?
Consistency is key.
Okay.
Maintaining a regular sleep schedule, even on weekends, is crucial for regulating that circadian rhythm. It's not just about bedtime.
Right.
It's also about wake-up time.
Okay.
Try to get up around the same time each day, even if you're tempted to sleep in.
So even if my body is begging for those extra minutes on Saturday morning, I should resist the snooze button?
It's better for your sleep in the long run. And another important strategy is to create a relaxing bedtime routine.
So like a pre-sleep ritual to wind down both body and mind.
Exactly. This could be anything from taking a warm bath or reading a book to listening to calming music
Okay.
or practicing relaxation techniques.
Okay.
Find what helps you unwind and de-stress.
Okay, so pre-sleep pampering is encouraged. Anything else?
Pay attention to what you eat and drink.
Okay.
Avoid large meals or sugary snacks close to bedtime.
So no late-night ice cream raids.
Probably not a good idea. And while that nightcap might seem relaxing,
Yeah.
alcohol actually messes with your sleep patterns.
Oh, okay.
It can lead to restless sleep and those dreaded early morning awakenings.
All right. No more bedtime cocktails. Got it.
And don't forget about the benefits of regular exercise.
Right.
Physical activity can do wonders for your sleep,
Mm-hmm.
but avoid exercising too close to bedtime. You need to give your body time to wind down.
So it's all about finding that balance between being physically active, but giving our bodies enough time to prepare for sleep.
Exactly. Remember, good sleep hygiene is an ongoing process. It requires commitment and consistency,
Right.
but the payoff is worth it. Prioritizing sleep is an investment in your health and well-being.
Absolutely. It sounds like sleep is a lot more complex than I ever realized.
It is.
But before we get too deep into the science,
Okay.
I'm curious about something.
Okay.
We've talked about like individual factors.
Right.
But what about the role of our social connections and our environment? Can those things affect our sleep too?
That's a great question, and the answer is yes.
Okay.
The people we surround ourselves with, the spaces we inhabit,
Mm-hmm.
they play a big role in shaping our sleep patterns.
So it's not just about what we do individually, it's also about the company we keep and the places we live.
Exactly. Your social circle can have a big influence on your sleep habits, for better or worse.
Okay.
If your friends and family prioritize sleep and have healthy sleep habits,
Mm-hmm.
you're more likely to do the same.
So it's like peer pressure for sleep.
You could say that. And on the flip side,
Okay.
if your social circle is constantly sleep-deprived and promoting unhealthy sleep habits,
Right.
it can be hard to maintain your own good sleep hygiene.
It's like they're sleep vampires sucking the sleep right out of you.
It's a dramatic way to put it, but you get the idea. And it's not just about like direct social interactions.
Right.
Our broader environment impacts our sleep as well.
Okay.
If you live in a noisy neighborhood
Yeah.
or a place with lots of light pollution,
Right.
it can be harder to get a good night's sleep.
So those of us living in bustling cities might have some extra sleep hurdles to overcome.
That's true. Noise, light, air quality, even temperature fluctuations that can
Yeah.
all affect our sleep. It highlights the importance of creating a sleep-conducive environment,
Okay.
not just in our bedrooms, but in our communities as well.
So advocating for things like noise ordinances and reducing light pollution and promoting healthy sleep habits within our social circles,
Yeah,
that could all contribute to better sleep for everyone.
exactly. It's a collective effort
Yeah.
that benefits individuals and communities alike. And speaking of communities,
Okay.
there's this fascinating phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
It's known as social jet lag.
Social jet lag.
It's becoming increasingly common.
Okay, what is that? Like experiencing jet lag without actually traveling?
You got it. Social jet lag is the difference between our natural sleep-wake cycle,
Mm-hmm.
as dictated by our circadian rhythm,
Okay,
and the socially imposed schedules
right.
we have to follow.
Like work or school.
Exactly, like work or school start times.
So it's like our internal clocks are clashing with the demands of modern life.
Exactly. It's especially common among adolescents and young adults,
Okay,
whose natural sleep-wake cycles tend to be later than older adults.
right.
Their bodies are primed to stay up late and sleep in late.
Ah, so that explains why teenagers are so notoriously difficult to wake up in the morning.
Their circadian rhythms are shifted later. Makes it really hard for them to fall asleep early and wake up early for school.
Right.
Those early school start times are essentially forcing them into a state of chronic social jet lag.
It sounds like we need to rethink those school schedules.
Many experts agree. Later school start times,
Right.
more in line with teenagers' natural sleep-wake rhythms,
Yeah.
have been shown to improve their academic performance,
Wow.
reduce daytime sleepiness,
Mm-hmm.
and even decrease the risk of car accidents among teen drivers.
So it's a win-win for everyone.
It is.
Now, I'm curious about something.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the importance of sleep for our physical and mental health.
Right.
But what about its role in creativity and problem solving? Can a good night's sleep actually make us more innovative?
Absolutely. Sleep plays a huge role in enhancing creativity, problem solving, even our ability to learn new information.
So those late night brainstorming sessions might be counterproductive after all.
When we're sleep deprived,
Yeah.
our brains are less able to make connections, to think outside the box, and come up with new ideas.
Hmm.
It's like our creative juices have dried up.
So sleep is like hitting the refresh button on our brains.
Exactly. When we get enough sleep,
Okay.
our brains can consolidate memories, connect seemingly unrelated pieces of information,
Hmm.
and generate those new insights.
So instead of burning the midnight oil, we should be catching some Z's to spark our creativity.
There's growing research to back that up.
Wow.
Studies have shown that a good night's sleep can improve our ability to solve problems, come up with creative solutions, and even learn new skills.
It's like sleep is a secret weapon for unlocking our full potential.
That's a great way to think about it. It really highlights how important sleep is
Yeah.
for living a healthy, productive, and creative life.
Well, this has been an incredibly eye-opening exploration of sleep.
It has.
But we're not done yet. There's still so much more to deserve
Oh, yeah.
in the fascinating world of slumber.
Indeed. We've only just begun to unravel the mysteries of sleep.
Welcome back, Sleep Detective. We're in the final stretch of our deep dive into the science of sleep.
All right.
And things are about to get really interesting.
Okay.
We've explored the, foundations of sleep,
Right.
the circadian rhythms, sleep pressure,
Uh-huh.
and the impact of things like caffeine, jet lag,
Mm-hmm.
even social connections.
Yeah, yeah.
My mind is officially blown.
I know, right?
But before we wrap things up,
Okay.
let's talk about some of those, sleep challenges that plague so many of us.
Yeah.
The ones that keep us tossing and turning all night.
Yeah, those sleep disturbances are definitely frustrating.
They are.
Should we start with insomnia?
Yes, let's tackle insomnia.
Okay.
It's like sleep is playing a game of hide and seek,
Uh-huh.
and I can never find it.
So insomnia is basically when you have trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or both.
Right.
Even when you have the time of the right environment,
Yeah.
it's not just the occasional sleepless night.
No.
It's a persistent pattern.
So it's like sleep is constantly dodging my attempts to, catch it. What causes it?
The causes can be a little tricky to pin down. It could be stress, anxiety, depression,
Okay.
medical conditions,
Right.
medications,
Yeah.
even bad sleep habits.
So it's a sleep mystery that we need to solve.
Exactly. And the solution really depends on the root cause.
Okay.
If it's stress-related, things like cognitive behavioral therapy,
Okay.
relaxation techniques,
Mm.
and good sleep hygiene can be helpful.
Okay.
But if it's due to a medical condition or medication, that needs to be addressed first.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach.
Precisely. And it's always a good idea to talk to a sleep specialist
Okay.
if you're struggling with insomnia.
Yeah.
They can help you figure out what's going on
Right.
and create a personalized treatment plan.
Okay. Insomnia decoded. Now, what about sleep apnea?
Okay.
I know it involves snoring, but is there more to it than that?
Snoring could be a symptom, But sleep apnea is much more serious than just a noisy nighttime habit.
Okay.
It's actually a sleep disorder
Okay.
where your breathing repeatedly pauses during sleep.
Wait, pauses in breathing. That sounds kind of terrifying.
It can be. These pauses, they're called apneas,
Okay.
can last from a few seconds to even a minute or more.
Wow.
And they happen when the muscles in the back of your throat relax
Mm-hmm.
and block your airway.
So it's like your body forgets to breathe while you're sleeping.
In a way, yes.
Wow.
And these breathing interruptions disrupt your sleep,
Right.
leading to fragmented sleep, daytime sleepiness, and a whole bunch of other health problems.
Wow. Definitely not something to take lightly. What are the signs that someone might have sleep apnea?
So loud snoring, especially if it's punctuated by gasps
Okay.
or choking sounds, is a big red flag.
Hmm.
Other signs include excessive daytime sleepiness,
Mm-hmm.
morning headaches,
Okay.
trouble concentrating,
Right.
irritability, and even depression.
So if you're waking up exhausted, even after a full night's sleep,
Right.
it might be time to investigate further.
Absolutely. If you suspect you might have sleep apnea, talk to your doctor.
Okay.
Or a sleep specialist. They can do a sleep study
Okay.
to diagnose it and recommend treatment,
Okay.
which might involve something called CPAP therapy
Okay.
that helps keep your airway open while you sleep.
Okay, good to know. We've tackled those sleep challenges, but now let's switch gears and let's talk about the more mysterious side of sleep, dreams.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on in our brains when we enter that weird and wonderful world of dreams?
Dreams are fascinating, aren't they?
They are.
They mainly happen during REM sleep,
Okay.
which is a stage of sleep characterized by rapid eye movements, increased brain activity, and muscle paralysis.
So it's like our brains are putting on a private show while our bodies are taking a break. But why are dreams so often so bizarre and nonsensical?
That's one of the big mysteries of dreams.
I know.
We don't fully understand their purpose, but we do know that they often reflect our deepest fears, desires,
Okay.
and unresolved conflicts.
Hmm.
They use symbols and metaphors to communicate messages
Right.
from our subconscious minds.
It's like our brains are speaking to us in a secret code.
Right.
Do you think there's any way to crack that code?
Interpreting dreams can be very personal and subjective.
Okay.
What a certain symbol means in your dream might be completely different for someone else.
Yeah.
It's all about context and personal meaning.
So there's no universal dream dictionary we can consult.
I'm afraid not. The best way to understand your dreams is to pay attention to recurring themes,
Uh-huh.
notions, and symbols,
Mm-hmm.
and see how they might connect to your waking life.
Okay, so dreams are a personal journey of self-discovery. I like that. Now, we've talked about REM sleep for dreaming, but what about those other stages of sleep? What's
Yeah.
happening in our brains and bodies during those non-REM phases?
So non-REM sleep is super important too, even though it doesn't have that dramatic flare of REM sleep.
Yeah.
There are 3 stages of non-REM sleep,
Okay.
each one deeper than the last.
So it's like descending a staircase into the
Yes.
depths of sleep.
Love that analogy.
Okay.
So in the first stage,
Okay.
our brains start to slow down.
Okay.
We transition from wakefulness to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
This stage is pretty light, easy to be woken up.
It's like that drowsy in-between state. where
Yeah.
You're not quite asleep, but you're not quite awake either?
Exactly. And then we move into stage 2.
Okay.
Our brain waves slow down even more.
Okay.
Heart rate, breathing become more regular.
Okay.
Our muscles relax.
Mm-hmm.
This stage is really important for memory consolidation and learning.
So our brains are busy even when we're sound asleep.
They are. And finally, we reach stage 3,
Okay.
also known as slow wave sleep.
Okay.
This is the deepest stage of sleep.
Wow.
Our brain waves are super slow and synchronized,
Mm-hmm.
and our bodies are totally relaxed.
It's like we've entered sleep hibernation mode.
That's a good way to put it. Slow wave sleep is essential for physical restoration, tissue repair, immune system function.
Wow.
Is when our bodies release growth hormone,
Okay.
do all those important repair jobs.
So it's like a nightly tune-up
Yeah.
for our bodies and minds.
Yes,
And we cycle through all these stages multiple times throughout the night, right?
that's right. Each cycle lasts about 90 minutes,
Okay.
and we go through it several times throughout the night.
It's like a sleep symphony with all these different movements and tempos. Okay, so we've learned about what can disrupt sleep.
Right.
But are there things that we can actively do
Yes.
to make sure we're getting a good night's sleep?
Absolutely. There are lots of strategies for optimizing your sleep
Okay.
and waking up feeling refreshed and energized.
Give me the sleep optimization secrets.
Well, we've already talked about a lot of them.
Right.
Like creating a consistent sleep schedule,
Mm-hmm.
a relaxing bedtime routine,
Yeah.
and a sleep-friendly environment.
Right.
But there are a few more things to keep in mind.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Make sure you're getting regular exercise,
Uh-huh.
but avoid working out too close to bedtime.
Right.
And pay attention to your diet.
Okay.
What you eat and drink can affect your sleep.
So those late-night sugar binges are officially off the menu.
Probably best to avoid them. And if you're struggling with any specific sleep problems like insomnia or sleep apnea,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to seek professional help from a sleep specialist.
Okay.
They can really help you.
So it's all about being proactive and
Yes.
taking charge of our sleep health.
Exactly. And remember, sleep is a dynamic process. What works for you at one point in your life might not work later on.
Right.
Be adaptable and experiment to find what helps you sleep best.
So it's all about listening to our bodies and making adjustments as needed.
Precisely. Sleep is a journey, not a destination. There will be nights when you don't sleep well,
Right.
but by understanding the science and making sleep a priority, you can create a roadmap
Yeah.
to better rest.
Wow. This has been an amazing deep dive.
Yeah,
I feel like I've unlocked the secrets of the sleep universe.
I know, me too.
Well, listeners, we've reached the end of our sleep odyssey, but the journey to better sleep continues.
Yeah,
Armed with the knowledge you've gained today, you're ready to conquer those sleepless nights and unlock the power of a well-rested life. Until next time, sweet dreams.